What's going on, guys? This is the 5 Yard Path with Sudi and Sham, and today we'll be talking about the permutations of the Europa League and how United will fare. And also, we're talking a little about how this season ended and what that means for the players going into the Europa League with the likes of the young players and whether they'll get a bit of time against Lask. So, Sham, how's it going, first of all?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Exciting finish to the season for United. Some shoots of promise have arisen from the Champions League qualification. Very
Yeah,
nervy ending to that, but good result, and
I
it opens up opportunities for us.
yeah. Generally speaking, I think towards the end it was a mad flurry of games, and then we obviously had the FA Cup thrown in there in between against Chelsea. So I think especially against Leicester and the game before that against West Ham, it was just real laboured draw and a win. And I think it came at the rest has come at a good time. And for once, I think the fixtures has fallen really well for United. I think I do know the players were given a week off. I think Scott McTominay is over in Ibiza, for example, and so is
Oh,
the
poor
man
guy.
Igalo. I've sseen videos of all of them. Yeah, poor guy.
The Gala was
Uh,
everywhere, but specifically Ibiza.
Igalo's omnipresent, but he's specifically, I think, in Italy at the minute.
Mm.
Uh, but I think a week off is good, and I think the players will obviously be sensible enough to not take it too hard because they have the game in 10 days if they're not playing against Lask, which they won't be. At least the core 15 of them. So yeah,
Probably more that core 10 or 11 you'd think would be rested for the last, and even maybe even the quarterfinal, and just be given a run in at the semis and the final. It'd be
okay.
interesting to see how they do it.
So you don't think like a Bruno would even play the quarterfinal against I think it's against Copenhagen or something like
Yeah,
that?
so I think that quarterfinal game, it's what, Istanbul or Copenhagen.
That's right. Yeah.
Just given, unless one of those teams pulls out a virtuoso performance, I think that Ollie will try and rest as many players as he can for that game. Might be a bit.
Yeah.
He kind of stuffed it up a bit in the FA Cup semi, trying to rest as many as he could. I
Yeah.
do think he will try it again though, just to rest some of those players. The good thing is, as much as UEFA Cup is a run at a trophy, he has achieved what he wants to for this season. So it does give him a bit more flexibility in terms of how he selects the teams.
Hmm.
But I do think when United make the semis, I think they'll have a proper run at it with their best 11.
Yeah. No, I'd slightly defer from that. I think Ollie. I think you'd agree with me. I think Ollie is going to be ruthless. Like he's going to want to win. He's looking over at Arsenal last night, going like, I mean, Mikel Arteta and Frank Lampard came that close to a trophy. I mean, at least Frank did, and Arteta won it. So I think he's going to go all out. I don't think he's going to rest too much in the quarterfinal, but I think what we're both saying there'd be a middle ground to it. So just talking about Leicester, I know it's been a while since that game, but any kind of key points you think, any positives or negatives, one or two things each that you bring up that could kind of spill over into the Europa,
I think
into the
that
last game?
the
Well,
main
not the
thing
last game, just the Europa campaign. Sorry.
the main thing for me is that the sign of a good team is that you can win when you're not playing at your best. It was a very
Hmm.
nervy, iffy. I was a wreck for most of that game trying to watch it and seeing the result come
Yeah.
through. So the fact that they could get the result despite not playing at their best, I think is a very
Hmm.
good sign because there are teams that play really well and just draw. So
Yeah.
that was probably the big takeaway for me. I don't think anybody really stood out. Everybody seemed to have a bit of fatigue. Um,
Hmm.
that's probably the main takeaway for me. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something about this team that I've noticed. I know this has happened twice where they've had a little break and they've just gone on and done 9, 10, 12 games in a row. They did when Ollie first came in and did it again after the break. And it just shows two things. I don't think it's a fitness issue. I just think the squad's just not big enough. But I
Yeah.
think with this rest, I'm fairly confident that we're going to go and do we're gonna we're going to go and do Copenhagen. It's not Besiktas, it's Istanbul, right?
Yeah.
And I think we can go on and beat the Sevillas, the Romas, or the Inter Milans, which obviously we're talking about in a little bit. So against Lask, I think we're fairly confident in saying we're going to see the likes of Ethan Laird and Mengi and definitely Tyus Chong come in and play. James Garner. I don't know if he's still injured. I got to go check that. But do you think playing against Lask in that kind of scenario where it's 5-0 up, do you think that's valuable for the youngsters?
Yeah. I mean, they will be told, and they will know that United are looking for 3, 4 more players. So they will want to be
Hmm.
those players. Someone like
Mhm.
Ethan Laird or Garner, Mengi, they'll know that if they can play well and put their hand up, it's going to save the
Mhm.
club tens of millions of pounds as well, because Ollie may not necessarily, if he finds that someone's done really well in midfield, he may not go and get a midfielder, for example, knowing that he can give these guys game time. And in the context of their careers, it'll be a big moment, even if it's an empty stadium, to step out and play for United. They'll
Mhm.
go all out at it. And so I think there'll be specific first team players who need a bit of game time, guys like Romero, Igalo, James, that will get a game. But I think there's going
Yeah.
to be a sprinkling of talent, youth talent
Yeah.
coming in as well.
You probably
Heard
see
a lot
you
of
probably
good
see
raps about
Fred in there.
Mengi. I'm looking forward to see if he plays, and just I've not seen
Yeah.
him play, so I'd love to really see him play
Yeah.
and see how he goes.
Yeah. Mengi for me is an athletic player who just happens to be a defender. So I can see him being that kind of. He almost reminds me a bit of Ledley King, the way he plays. He's not afraid to make those runs in. You'll see even a Rio kind of at the peak of his career, 07, 08, where he's not afraid to take the ball and just push into the box, make those like kind of 30, 40 yard runs with the ball. But these are all academy videos that we're watching. It's you can't really got to take it with a pinch of salt. Yeah. So coming to the permutation, so as we said before, on our side of the draw, we're playing Lask, which basically a done deal. Copenhagen versus Istanbul. Who do you see? Who do you see as playing next? If you had to pick.
It's a bit of a toss-up. Copenhagen's probably a bit more the name side. They have played in the Champions League sporadically when they get through the qualifiers. In Turkey, it's a bit difficult because outside of the big three, there's not really any sort of big clubs at all. So they're all quite small. I think only one other team or something like that outside the big three has ever won the league. So
Yeah.
Copenhagen's got a bit more of a name. I don't know a lot about the clubs, to be honest, but I'm leaning to Copenhagen.
So I think we talked about it as well. On the other side of the draw, we have Leverkusen, Rangers, Sevilla, Roma, Inter Milan, Getafe as well. Excuse me, it's getting up my and Basel and Frankfurt. So I'm actually quite as much as Steven Gerrard was a Liverpool player, he was a fantastic player, and I think he's done quite okay as a coach. I say okay because he's come in with fairly limited resources, and he's done okay. And then you have Leverkusen, who they're playing with Kai Havertz, who could be a Chelsea player this time next year. That's actually a fixture I'm actually really interested to see, just in terms of a good unit against a couple of really good players in Leverkusen. Have you watched Kai Havertz play at all?
I've seen YouTube videos and things like that. He looks like a very intelligent player.
Yeah, very
sort of reads
intelligent
the game
player.
pretty well, and he's got
Yeah.
he's light and nimble. So yeah, it would be interesting with Chelsea. Chelsea seem to be taking the Arsenal method of signing as many attacking players as they can, which is interesting because the defense is probably the thing that needs overhauling.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, I heard a rumor this morning that Abraham's on the way up because of these guys coming in, which is a bit of a shock. But yeah, how many players can he fit in the three positions?
But I had Hudson-Odoi. There's some interest in United as well for Callum Hudson-Odoi, and I mean,
it's not
the worst.
Idea.
Like, if Jadon Sancho, I mean, we'll come to Sancho. I guess it's just coming to my head, but I mean, Hudson-Odoi. If you told me we don't get Sancho, we get him, it's not the worst. I mean, I say that it sounds like I'm being negative, but actually he's a very good player. Like,
he's
Bayern
an
Munich wanted him
international.
before
He's
his
done well for England.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sarri was under pressure to play him a bit. He's probably fallen off the radar a bit since then.
Yeah. And I mean, for me personally, I think, I mean, forget Wolves as well. For me personally, I'd love to see. I think Inter's going to make that final if United does. If kind of on paper, I think Inter would make that final. I think it'll just be it'd be quite sweet to beat Inter, just with the way Lukaku, Sanchez, and Young has gone there.
You wouldn't want to be Ollie and send 3 players to Inter Milan and lose that final to Inter Milan. You would not want that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that would be the hardest team to play against?
Yeah, I think if looking at that draw, I think Wolves are on that side as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
And United just couldn't get rid of them in the FA Cup. It was a real stretch of a game, and if Wolves get there, that they'd be up and about for a trophy. So and there's a Champions League spot that hangs with that as well that they could necessarily get. So probably those two, but yeah, probably Inter more so. If you look at it, it's a bit of an EPL rejects club or something. They've got like Victor Moses. They got all these fellas didn't quite make it in England and have gone out there. I don't know if
to Inter
they've got
Milan, you
new
mean?
ownerships. So sometimes you wonder with owners, if they're looking out of the 2015
Yeah,
manual of footballers.
the Indonesian ownership that came in, I think about 3 years ago,
Yeah,
if I'm not wrong. Yeah, yeah. There seems to be this trend with like when Asian, especially specifically Southeast Asian owners, billionaires take over clubs. They kind of look back on like the 3 years ago Football Manager manual.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember when who owns Air Asia? What's his name, Sean? Tony
Fernandez.
Fernandez. When he took over QPR, and he went and bought Rio and Rio's. I think he bought Rio's brother as well. The Brazilian fullback for Chelsea, Alex, and he
Yeah,
just bought all these. I think he bought Joey Barton as well. So um, actually speaking of QPR, I was actually talking to my sister, and she was asking me who won the Premier League. This is like three days ago. She was like, "What's so good about Liverpool winning the Premier League?" Something like that. And then the topic of the Aguero goal came in, and I was trying to explain to her like the the levity of the situation, how me and you were watching it, and United had won the league, and then City had to score 4 goals in 6 minutes, and they did it. And trying to transmit that to her, she was like, "Oh, so they scored 2 goals?" I was like, "Yeah, but they did it in 6 minutes." She just couldn't understand it. Anyway, um, so I think if we do go and win the Europa League, do you think that's dangerous for the season, which starts 3 weeks after that?
yeah. It depends on how well the players get rest, and it depends on how they feel at the moment. I'm sure that there's a lot of recovery that these guys are doing. So,
Yeah.
it. I think that yeah, it'll be about 3 weeks between the Europa League final and the start of the Premier League, isn't there? You'd think
Yeah.
that
So
it would be
every
enough, and
English
I
club's
don't
getting
think
it.
that there would be an immediate drop off. It's more when you're getting to November and December and the games are coming thick and fast. That's more when I'd be a bit worried.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you, in a sense, having the best record, in the last 6 months of the Premier League, plus winning the UEFA Cup, or the Europa Cup, sorry, and getting a good start to the Premier League, I think that all flows together. The worry
Mm-hmm.
is having those reinforcements when there are injuries, when there are suspensions, when the season's a bit tighter than normal. I heard this week
Yeah.
that the League Cup's being cancelled next year, which is good because England's like the only country that hasn't.
What? I didn't see that.
I heard
No.
this morning that it's been scrapped just for the next season.
Right.
So, which will
Oh.
help make that, which is pretty much, I think if they scrap the Europa Cup and cancel FA Cup replays in the early
Yeah.
rounds, that should be enough to just condense the season a bit.
Yeah. 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 That makes sense. It does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, because they won't want to touch they won't want to touch the Premier League or the Champions League. So
Oh, absolutely not. No.
if they do it, I've not heard anything about the FA Cup, but I heard that the League Cup has been scrapped. In France, they played the last ever League Cup. There will be no more League Cups, and they're the only two countries that ever play the League Cup. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's
I
right.
always felt having a second domestic competition was a little redundant. Um,
Do you know why? Because I mean, you bit of storage information. Do you know why the League Cup is about when you have the FA Cup? It's basically. Oh, okay. So it's just. Oh, I thought there was some
FA
sort
Cup
of.
was really
Oh,
popular in the late 50s, and they decided to make a second cup competition, but needed something unique about it. So they just put all the top four divisions, all just created a league competition. Hence League
oh
Cup.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. League. So it's not. So the non-league teams don't play. Okay.
yeah. And it's been a good competition over the years, but the reality is when teams are putting out second stringers, you got to question the validity of the competition at that level. I mean, it's
Well, I
been doing
mean,
it for a while.
well, I remember when it was called the Worthington Cup for a while and all that, and
Mm.
the Caraba. I think it's called the Caraba now, but
Yeah.
I've always thought they should have set a bunch of rules in the FA Cup and the League Cup. And the FA Cup, they should have had more respect for it. Um, the way
So the FA
The
Cup
way
had a bit
Klopp
more
played his
respect.
kids. No, the League Cup should get less respect, but it should be within a set of rules, so no one can kind of say anything about it. So, I would, let's say a squad of 18, 11 of them have to be academy graduates. You don't have to start them necessarily, but they have to be academy graduates. So if those rules are set in place, there's not going to be much back chat. There's going to be a clear kind of goal as to why you're playing that league,
Yeah,
playing the
exactly.
11 youngsters,
Like a
and the
certain
11
number of
youngsters
under
could be.
23s or under 21s or
Yeah, I mean, the
something
11
like that.
youngsters
Yeah.
could even be, if you have a guy who's 28, like a Rashford, he'd be academy player. You could play him. There's no issue there. But it has to be 11 academy players. And then you go to the FA Cup and you have to say, um, there has to be some sort of ruling saying, like, if you play these players, they got to have a certain amount of appearances to their name. You have to somehow tease out the fact that they're definitely first team players rather than just putting in kids. which is very subjective, I guess, because you could just go like, oh, this is Brandon Williams. He's a first team player now. So I just think that there are ways around that. If Man City can get around financial
FFP.
fair play,
Yeah.
FFP, you can get around this anyway. But yeah, that's interesting. I didn't actually see that with the time difference. It's always hard to get onto these rules when it comes up. But I think it'd be good, man. You get rid of the League Cup. I think generally it'd be good for this season, especially with the way it's all condensed.
Yeah. I mean, there are cup competitions that, for example, the United under-23s go into competitions against second and third division teams. So it could survive in that form going forward. But yeah, I would. I mean, for so long now, teams go and play their second stringers in that competition. And if any competition you're playing second stringers, I think you've got to have a bit of a look at the long-term viability of that competition and how it needs to change shape. So some good ideas there. Probably nothing will happen because it's the FA, but yeah, I think that they need to add up, give a bit more purpose to that competition rather than being the fourth biggest trophy in England. Turn it into something.
And what will Man City win if the League Cup is scrapped?
Exactly.
All right, so let's go to Europa there. Yeah, let's talk about the Champions League then, Sham. You have a few thoughts. Do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, just I've gone and had a bit of a look at just the draw and the teams, and obviously because it's not United centric, I'm just going to sort of have a bit of a look at just the teams in the draw and the way that it works out. So there's been 4 teams have immediately gone through to the quarters, and they're all on one side of the draw, ironically. And there's 8 teams that have the second leg of their second round fixture to play.
Could you run through those if you have? Do you have it there, Sham?
Yeah, so the 4 teams that have already made the quarterfinals. So one quarterfinal is Atletico Madrid versus Red Bull Leipzig, and the second is Atalanta versus PSG. So that's a very interesting side of the draw. 2 first-time quarterfinalists in Leipzig and Atalanta, and 2 wannabes in Atletico and PSG who really want to win this thing. So they will fancy one of those teams. One of those 4 teams will make it to the final. So it's a very open side of the draw. Looking at the form book, very interesting. Red Bull Leipzig have actually played pretty well. They had a bit of a blip just before the coronavirus break.
They lost Haaland.
Yeah, and they lost Haaland. They had a bit of a blip at that time. They dropped. They were winning or very close to winning the Bundesliga. They've dropped to 3rd now. They finished 3rd in the Bundesliga, but if you look at their draw, they've won.
Sorry, not Haaland. Excuse me, not Haaland. That's the Austrian.
Rapid Vienna.
Sorry, no, there's usually no reason for their blip, but they have sold Timo Werner since. Sorry,
sorry, wrong Red Bull.
Wrong Red Bull.
Sorry, go on. Moy played for Man City. Oh, sorry, it was Melbourne City, who were owned by Man City. The Australian international Aaron Moy. He played
for Huddersfield. Sorry.
So he was bought by Man City, went to Huddersfield, and never played for Man City. But he was part of the Man City conglomerate. So Leipzig have they've won 4 out of 9. Had an okay finish to the season. Dortmund and Bayern Munich passed them. Finished third. They're quite an attacking team. They've scored, I think, 81 goals in the Bundesliga, which is in 34 games is pretty good, but they've conceded 37. So it's quite an open sort of game that you'd expect for them. One player to keep an eye on is Dayo Upamecano, a French international centre back.
I like him.
United have a bit of an eye on him, so he might be an option to go for instead of Koulibaly. He's kind of Koulibaly 5 years ago, not quite the physicality, but a much better passer of the ball and likes to orchestrate attacks. Shades of a young Rio Ferdinand type of player, so would be an ideal type of. You'd think a Rio type player would suit Harry Maguire quite well as well.
Pacey
I know player, some of the United YouTubers will be going a bit crazy about him, so I'd like to see him in action, and he's a very important part of that team. And there are rumors about his future, as there are with all good young players. So that'll be interesting. Atletico really ground out the rest of their season, so they played 9 games, won 5, drew 4. Finished 3rd behind who in Spain, as they normally do. They drew with Barcelona, which crushed Barcelona's league title aspirations. So it'll be interesting to see how that.
So
Atletico will want. Atletico have in the past, like in 2014 when they won the league, they actually were trying to win the Champions League,
They lost it
and they lost
to
in the
Madrid.
last minute of that. Or they
Yeah,
crumbled in extra time, but really lost it.
yeah, but
The
they could
Sergio
have won it in
Ramos' header
90.
in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
90 millionth minute of extra time there
yeah,
in that
yeah.
epic
And
final in
Gareth
2014.
Bale as
So
well.
it's one they've lost that final to Real Madrid. They lost in 2016. They actually lost in it was one of the years Bayern Munich won it in the 70s. Like they made this storm to the final and they lost to it
Oh,
might have
right.
been 74 and it was quite a controversial thing as well. They feel a bit like I don't know if you follow the Boston Red Sox in
Yep.
America with the
The
curse of the
curse, you mean?
Bambino. They
The
feel a
curse,
bit
yeah.
cursed in the Champions League. So they'll feel that they have a crack and with a wide open draw
Sham, that's
and the way
insane.
that
That
they
memory is
play.
insane. Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you there. That is an insane bit of memory. They did lose. So it was like the AFL final. So they replayed it. They drew. So they drew the first leg in May, and then 2 days later they replayed. Two
Yeah.
days later, and and Madrid won 4-0. Sorry, Madrid. Munich won 4-0.
4-0. Yeah.
No, I'm very impressed with that shit. That's insane. Jed Muller scored two,
Was it
and
74?
so
Sorry, the year.
it was 74. Yeah, well
Yeah.
done.
Okay. Yeah.
Man, that final, Beckenbauer played, Kappelman played, Hansen. That would have been a final to watch. Anyway, sorry, go on. So,
Yeah.
Atletico, yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to
So
interrupt you. I just thought that was a very good bit of memory.
one off game there. Be interesting to see how it goes. I lean towards Atletico. Leipzig might just
Yeah,
be a
me
bit
too.
happy to be there, whereas Atletico they'll want to make
Yeah,
the final at a minimum.
yeah.
Speaking of one of making the final, PSG will be in. Will, PSG versus Atalanta will play the winner of that game. So
hmm
PSG they've only played 4 games since the break. Came back from the coronavirus and won 9-0 in France. They've won
Yeah,
all their games, but one of them was on penalties, which was the last ever League Cup final that I was talking about.
yeah. They won that against Lyon last night. Yeah, 2 nights ago. Sorry.
Yeah, the interesting thing with PSG is they have no depth behind their first 11. It's very
Mm,
interesting with PSG because Paris is the hotbed of football talent in the world. Like 37 players from Paris played in the 2018 World Cup, which is strange when you think 23
How many?
only played in one country. 37. Like a lot of them went and played for nations of their origin,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
like Cote
Okay, so yeah,
d'Ivoire and country. Actually,
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
even know if
yeah,
Cote d'Ivoire played the last World Cup, but you know what I mean. Like a lot of the
yeah,
African
yeah.
countries where the players' parents emigrated from.
The Algerias and those kind of the Moroccos and the Algerias. Yeah,
Exactly. But the
yeah,
players in the academy can't get into the first team, so they end up going off everywhere else. And you
yeah.
look at guys like Thierry Henry. I think Conte was from there as well. Mahrez, like all these guys come from that
Yeah,
football hotbed.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so they can't seem to get those guys into the first team. But they've got the one guy has Mbappe, Neymar. You just can't rule these guys out. Um,
Yeah.
they'll see it as a very legitimate chance to
No,
make the
but
final. They've
Mbappe's
had that
Mbappe.
pretenders thing over their head, which they'll want to break.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mbappe's out, man.
Mbappe's out. All right.
Yeah, he's injured.
Oh, that's right.
Uh,
He got tackled really badly. Yeah.
yeah, look, it's not a long-term injury. He could play for Atalanta, but like he could play, he couldn't play. But I don't think they're relying on him to play. I just on that Pretenders title, I actually kind of like that idea because if you look at these kind of, let's say, these money-injected teams of Man City, as soon as Chelsea won, or as soon as they got close in 08 when they nearly won it, and then when they won it in 2012 and Drogba scored that goal, Chelsea's now part of the fabric of European football. You
Mm.
almost feel like they have the right to be there. But if Man City's the PSGs, although they'd be the best sides in the world, two of the probably 5 best sides in the world. I do agree with you. I think like they still have this kind of pretender title. Yeah, you can buy your league titles and you win it by, you get 100 points, or PSG wins it by 30 points every year. I think winning the Champions League for them, that's what the goal is, and I think
Yeah.
they've made no secret of it either. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, PSG have won. I think it's 8 out of the last 9 French league titles.
Yeah.
So they expect to win that every year. So it's really a mark of their success to do well in Europe. And they've struggled. I mean, they had the implosion against Barcelona. They seem a bit like the England national team. Whenever they come up against someone good, they've struggled. So they will see a clear path to the final. They'll see a one-off game against the other side of the draw, which has a lot of thoroughbreds. They will want to shake that title, and they may see it as their best chance in a long time to do something like that. Interesting game against Atalanta. The Atalanta are a very attack-minded team. They beat
free
Valencia
scoring.
8-4 in aggregate. Scored 98
Yeah,
goals in Serie A this season.
absolutely. Yeah, Cyril Immobile,
And
you're
that's
not lying.
37 games, so they might crack the
Sorry,
100.
Cyril Immobile,
Although they
Zapata.
might have played this morning, actually. I'm not sure of the score. I didn't follow it, but conceded 46 goals at the same time. So
Yep. Yep.
love
Yep.
to attack. That's a thing that could unsettle PSG because PSG have better players in attack than they do in defense. So
Yeah.
might be the way to go. And Atalanta will back themselves. They did it against Valencia. They've done it the whole way.
Yeah.
Very interesting. But Atalanta might have that, happy to be in the quarterfinals as well mentality. So we'll see. They've done really well actually since the break. They've won 9 and drawn 3 of their 12 games. So they're on a roll. And anything can happen in a one-off game. So that side of the draw is very open. The other side of the draw still has the second leg to go, but a lot of thoroughbreds there. So Man City, Real Madrid, Juventus, Lyon,
Man
Barcelona,
City up,
Napoli, and Bayern,
just
Chelsea.
running through that. So Man City, Madrid, Man City be up in that right now.
Yeah, Man City have the home game, and they're up
Yep.
2-1. They won 2-1 in the Bernabeu. So,
Yep.
and they will be,
Chelsea.
you get the feeling with City, again, a bit like PSG, they'll really want to have a massive crack at it. Even without the FFP stuff. Guardiola has not won one in a long time. The club has not won one in a
2011.
long time. They made the
2011. Yeah.
semi-finals once and were quite vapid in that encounter against Madrid. So there's a lot of pressure on City. And the interesting thing about City is when they've won this season, they've actually played really well. They've won 9 games since the break. 6 of them have been either 4-0 or 5-0. So when they win, they blow
Not
teams out
surprised.
of the water. But the games they lost against Arsenal, FA Cup, they lost against Southampton. That Chelsea game when they had a red card and lost 2-1, then they lost the league that day. It really looked like they just look quite bereft of ideas when they play well. But when they play well, like you win 6 out of 9 games, 4-0, 5-0, you're really blowing teams out of the water. So
I don't think I personally don't think I think Madrid's in a good moment right now. I think they have a lot of belief, and I think I see Madrid.
Madrid's very interesting because they've won their last 10. They came back from coronavirus and won 3-1 or 3-0.
Just blew it out of the water, yeah.
But here's the thing: it's a very how teams tend to build around their best players. This has been Ramos' season.
Absolutely.
All-time legend,
goals
absolute thug. But I only say that because Ramos was on my team. So,
yeah.
but the last 8 games, they won either 1-0, 2-1, or 2-0. So they're not blowing teams away. 2-0 would do it against City, but even if they
1-0 would do it.
Well, 1-0 they're losing away.
Oh, sorry. No, they have to win 2-0. Yeah.
Although 1-0 would probably, I think it would take it an extra time.
No, it wouldn't because City's got
Oh yeah,
2.
sorry, it'd have to be the same score, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
We want to go to extra time. You get the feeling in this game. I just get the feeling the longer that it's there to win, the more Real will fancy themselves. City could blow it out.
I couldn't say better. Yeah. I think if
City
it
could blow it
goes
out
into
early,
this,
or it becomes an arm wrestle, and you don't. The one man in the world I wouldn't want to have an arm wrestle with would be Sergio Ramos. So
if it gets into the 70th, the 60th, 70th, and it's still 0-0, I'd fancy Madrid to take 2 late goals. Just to quickly go through the other ones. So Bayern have a 3-0 lead against Chelsea.
And they're playing at home in the second leg, so
look,
unless you see flying pigs, don't expect Chelsea to win.
Chelsea played their last game of the season already last night, so that's a write-off. I'd like to see what's the first leg score against Napoli and the Juventus Lyon game.
So Lyon won 1-0 at home, so the second leg's in Turin.
Oh right, yeah.
So they'll have to win. They've got a guy called Ronaldo, so I expect them to win. Juventus against Lyon. And Barcelona Napoli was 1-1 in Naples.
That's right. Yeah.
Barca will be interesting though. You expect them to win this game. I've got serious question marks over how they would go in the quarters. If they go through, they will probably play Bayern. So you would expect Bayern to make the semis. And Juventus versus City or Real Madrid. I think City or Real Madrid is probably the closest of those 4 games.
Yeah.
You'd expect the thoroughbreds, the Juventus, Barcelona, Bayern to all get through. Real Madrid's got a bit more of a question mark.
That's a tough side of the draw. Besides, Lyon, Napoli, they're no pushovers either. Like you wouldn't want to. Yeah, that's a very tough 8 teams to play. So we're going to talk about the video. I guess we're going to talk about more specific games next week. But if you had to pick based on what you know now and what you just said, who do you think's got the who do you think are the most likely for the Champions League?
It's very hard to look past Bayern Munich. Last 11 games since the coronavirus breaks, won 11, scored 36, conceded 9. I think Bayern at the moment are on Liverpool's level. I think they're playing that well.
Yeah.
Those two are probably the best two teams in the world. City is somewhere around there, but
Mm-hmm.
Bayern are looking like an ominous machine again. They haven't for a couple of
Mm.
years. Um,
Yeah.
I expect them to do well. Whoever wins out of City, Madrid to do well, and
Mm-hmm.
I expect Atletico to figure out a way to get past PSG, make the final. So those are my
Right.
expectations. Yeah.
Um, I think Madrid's going to take it out for me. I just feel that something about the momentum. But look, that's just a bit of an emotional kind of decision. But I pretty hard to disagree with you on a logical front. I think Bayern Munich, Lewandowski is going to take out his Ballon d'Or rage on Chelsea and then on Barcelona as well. For me, he's been the best out and out striker in the last 12 months, if not 18 months. I think it's so unfortunate. The guy's might leave his career without winning. Might end his career without winning a Ballon d'Or. But at the same time, the Ballon d'Or is you could talk about the corrupt organization that it is, but he would deserve it this year.
It's hard when you've got two of the greats playing at the same time in Messi and Ronaldo, which are his peak years. They've won what
Yeah.
10 between them. So
No, it's more than that, isn't it? It's like 11, 12 or something.
yeah, I mean, there's only three active footballers in the world that have won the Ballon d'Or, like
Yeah.
the Modric and then those two.
Luka.
The
Well,
last
Kaká.
last one before them was Kaká. Like
Yeah, Kaká.
Cannavaro before him.
2006 or 7.
Kaká was 07.
Yeah, because
Cannavaro was
Cannavaro won the World Cup. Yeah,
yeah.
won the World Cup one. Yeah.
So there's only like I believe Kaká's retired. I might be wrong, but
Yeah.
if
I
not,
think
then
he's.
but,
What's that second? He's playing for that second tier of the MLS where Nani's playing.
oh, that's right,
Uh,
Orlando
what's
something,
it
right?
called?
FC
NSL, I
Orlando.
think. The NSL is National Soccer. No, NSL is Australian. Sorry, I can't
No,
remember
I
what's
think
the.
it is the NSL in
It's
America.
NSL as well. Yeah. It's NSL. Yeah, that's where Nani's playing. I guess they're making their last bit of money there, but yeah. No, I mean, yeah. Look, I think logically, Bayern Munich should take it out. Yeah. Anyway, um, so I guess we'll talk about the last a little bit more in depth next week. But look, should be interesting, man. I hope coming back to United. I hope we leave the season with a trophy. It'll just be good. It'll be a good way to kind of start things up again. I just feel everything's moving the right direction. To not win the FA Cup and then not win the Europa, even though we got third place, we just
It would feel like
we've
a slight
taken
underachievement, wouldn't it? Yeah.
yeah we've taken 5 steps and we could have taken 10. You know,
Yeah.
that's the best way I can describe it. It's still progress, but you just feel a little bit of a dampening to the season.
Yeah, and
Anyway,
like I said before, if they're worried about burnout, it's not burnout through September, October. I'm worried about. It's burnout November, December. The way around that is for United to go and get the players that they're talking about. I mean, every man and his dog's linked to United these days, but
yeah,
there is a need for 3 or 4 signings, which we can talk about in another video.
yeah,
But those 3 or 4 players coming in, that's how United are going to fix the problem of burnout. It's not from resting and rotating players through the Europa, if
yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah.
Um,
It's a
and
bandit on
look,
a
with
bleed.
the
Yeah,
season when United won the treble, everyone talks about the class of '92 of the treble, but they bought Jaap Stam, they bought Dwight York, they bought Blomqvist to bring in a bit of depth into that team. All three play. I mean, Blomqvist was a squad player, but Stam and
well,
Cole,
Blanc is played the
Stam and
final.
York,
Or he
sorry,
played
added
the
so much to the
semi-final. Yeah,
team. Yeah, it's Blomqvist. Yeah, he
he
played the
started the
final.
final because Roy Keane couldn't play. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and Giggs
Scholes.
went on the
Sorry,
right wing.
Scholes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
even like Roy Keane was a transfer record for England at the time. You know, Andy Cole,
Two and
they
a half
said he was
million.
worth
Yeah,
his weight in gold. It was so much money. You know,
yeah,
there
yeah,
is a need to buy to win trophies. There is a
yeah,
need. So, and United need to avoid becoming, Arsenal light and trying to just qualify for the Champions League. There is a need
yeah,
and a push to get trophies. There is a need to go and get these players. We can talk about who exactly they are. We know the names to a certain degree, but
yeah,
there is a need to go and spend, and that's going to help with that depth next season. We need those extra 3 players to add to the sort of the 11 first team squad that we've got, and make the guys on the bench a bit less important, so to speak, because it does tail off quickly after the first 11 at the moment, unfortunately.
yeah. Well, on that note, Sham, are we good?
Yeah,
Are
all
we
good.
happy with the permutations? Are we happy with the permutations of what could happen?
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Yeah, definitely. Like you said, I think they'll rest some guys against Lask. It'll be interesting to see how Ollie brings in, whether he tries to give him a break in the quarter or he goes all out.
Yeah.
Should be the interesting one. But yeah, win 5-0 away from home, you wouldn't expect to lose the home leg. So looking
Yeah.
forward to the quarterfinals and beyond.
All right, perfect. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching 5 Yard Pass. And as always, we'll be doing the preview for the United vs last game next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Sudi, and this is Sham. Cheers, guys.